if and when it happens, nobody will be able to say I didn't see that one coming. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I'll yield
Okay.
with that.
All right. Thank you for that. We'll deal with that too.
Yes.
Yes, we will.
You're
This
welcome.
is good. Thank you. This is good. This is actually good. I know we got more than just the three four voices we heard on the live. Uh, listen, don't feel like you have nothing to contribute. You really do. I know some of you like to listen, but if you take 30 seconds, just 30 seconds, and I'm not saying you have to, but add to this dialogue. I'm not going to beg you, but I'm just saying, sometimes your voice is needed so that we can all know that we're all alive in here and we all have something to say about what we're experiencing so that we know we're not so far apart from each other. We're all going through similar stuff. This helps to break down the walls of solitude and let us see that, hey, we're all on equal footing here. So once we know that and can accept that, now we can step in lockstep and move together towards a solution, towards an alternative, and implement it just as quickly as this other stuff was done. This is a rock solid, life altering fact about this money system. It causes us to feel isolated. So many times we get behind on things, and guess what? We don't want nobody to know that we're struggling. That's none of their business. True. But even though we know that we are, and sometimes we know we could use a helping hand, we don't want it because we don't want nobody to know about our situation, even if they do mean us good and mean us well. This monetary system has gotten us to think in terms of isolation. No, you don't need to know that. I don't need your help. I don't need nobody else's help. I'll be all right on my own. No, you won't. No, you won't. And until we accept that and start being true to ourselves in that, we're always going to struggle because we're going to be disjointed. Now, if anybody in here has ever done anything to a joint in your body, you know how painful it is for that joint to be displaced. It doesn't work when it's displaced. It has to come back together in order for that part to now function the way it functioned originally. This is what we're talking about. We need to drop the facades. We need to start being true to ourselves. You don't have to tell everybody your personal business, but we do need everybody to understand that we're all experiencing something different, and we can come and discuss things so that now we know that we're just the same as everybody else, and we're all trying to dig out of this hole. And we can help one another to get to the top of this rim of a hole we find ourselves in, and alley-oop and over.
Marcus, can I make this statement? Supposedly there's 40 some odd think tanks throughout the country. There used to be one somewhere here in Jersey, we've learned. Well, that's what this program is tonight. It's a think tank. So if you ever thought of the need for a think tank, please join in. And with that, I rest.
Exactly. All right, I'm going to unpack some information here. And as you just heard, you can chime in, you can join in. But I'm going to unpack some things, and it's going to be some things that you may have heard before, but maybe didn't, do any deep diving on it. But okay, let's go here tonight. How many of us have heard of central banking? Heard that term, central banks? Emphasis on the word central. Central banking. Centralized banking system. Which means a banking system that is unified, has uniform rules, and that operates from end to end and all the way around again with rules that govern not only people, but corporations, companies, governments, and the like. There is no other authority other than that central banking system's authority in their own system. They designed it, everybody succumbs to it and uses it according to their rules, which are volumes. Volumes you'll never get through in a lifetime. Central banking. Now, that's a centralized monetary system. But how many of you have heard of decentralized money? Decentralized banking. Has anybody heard of that? Decentralized, meaning not subject to the bankers. This is now subject to the will and the actions of the people. It's already here. It's already been put in place, but you really won't hear about it on the open media, the expanded media, but you may hear it on some what they call off media stations, alternative media and news reporting outlets, or other think tanks and circles that speak of these things, because it's not widely put out there. Decentralized banking, which gives you back, number one, privacy rights. With decentralized banking, guess what? None of your personal information is tied up into any transaction or any type of account that you have. It's not there. Although you control it, you do, but not with your name, address, social, date of birth. None of that. It's not there. Total privacy in every transaction. And guess what? You're able to buy food. You're able to buy fuel. You're able to buy clothing. You're able to purchase property, homes, transportation, cars. You can fly. Take mass transits. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. There is a way to use it directly and a way to use it to where you can actually exchange it through different exchanges and get the equivalent of what you may need to use in a system of centralized money, but without your information being attached. So in other words, it's like someone gave you a gift and said, here you go, you can just use that. It's already loaded and ain't got nothing to do with you, but it's yours now. Go ahead and use it. That's already here, everybody. It's been here. But how many of you heard of it? Okay. All right. So I can assume or presume that nobody's heard of that. Okay. Now, yes. Go ahead. You got the floor. You have the floor. Don't be scared. You got the floor.
Permission to speak?
You got the floor.
Okay. I have heard of centralized banking. I didn't pay attention to too much what it meant. But I do know that when we were encoding the Metro cards, we also had an employee card, and they were tracking devices.
Mm-hmm.
Every turnstile and station that you went to, they knew. As a matter of fact, I think there was a case where this man had did something. Was it on the Staten Island ferry? And that's how they tracked him, because he had bought a Metro card. So I knew that it was a tracking card. So when I was out sick, sometimes they would send inspectors to the home to verify that you were sick. We had to call in to let them know we were leaving the house. And so I carried a separate Metro card. What I did was I used my employee card to leave. And while I was doing what I was doing, in between that time, I would use my private Metro card. And then when I was going back home, I would use the other one, the employee-issued one. Now, I'm not saying that they couldn't track the private one, but they definitely could track me as an employee, and I think everything is more or less on the table now. I wonder if we could carry that geofencing thing that they're doing, where they could mark a grid off in the neighborhood, and they could monitor every cell phone, your TV, RFID, GPS, and all those kinds of things now is on the table. Yeah. And I'll yield with that.
Marcus, I want to get back in. Yes, I've heard of central banking, and even though I'm not a constitutionalist, I do know that the so-called founding fathers were against such a practice. I understand there were debates that they had, and it was shot down. So that, because there's central banking going on in this country, that shows that the Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, that was set up by the Constitution, has not been doing this job, because it's supposed to make sure that any laws align with the concept of that original document. And so since they allow this central banking, that goes against the Constitution. Now, you said decentralized banking. Well, I never heard that until tonight. And I'm just wondering, decentralized versus uncentralized. Uncentralized would be in harmony with the fact that there should have never been a centralized banking system set up. Decentralized, I guess that means people are, I guess, the so-called powers that be, taking another action, whether it proves to be constitutional or not. And I rest.
Okay.
Can I add?
Mhm.
Yes. Can I add the AI overview? I did look it up. From what I see here, a centralized banking system run by a single national institution known as a central bank. This top authority controls the country's money supply, sets interest rates, and makes rules for commercial banks. It does not serve regular people. Instead, it acts as the main bank for the government and commercial banks. So the monetary policy, they adjust the interest rates and money flow to control inflation and guide economic growth. Bank regulation sets capital and reserve rules to keep commercial banks safe and stable. The lender of last resort provides emergency loans to banks during financial panics or crises. And the currency issue holds the legal monopoly to print and manage physical national currency. So the major global examples are the United States, we have the Federal Reserve, the Fed, Eurozone, the European Central Bank, United Kingdom, the Bank of England, and Japan, the Bank of Japan. So that's what that's all about. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Now, you asked the
Appreciate
question earlier that I
what
wanted
that
to
thing, while appreciating what the AI thing says, the fact of the matter is that according to the Constitution, that was not supposed to come on this stolen land. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, I wanna address the questions. I want to answer the question that was asked earlier about Trump's coin, the Trump coin. Very, very interesting that question came up because the Trump coin technically rolled out as a commemorative coin, but it's not a physical species coin to be mass produced. It's a coin that is crypto in nature, digital. But here's the question. Is that coin under the central banking system or the decentralized system of the people? Because now everything has been split down the middle, and there's a choice to make. The centralized central banking system is going to continue. It's going to continue with digital currency, quote unquote, cryptos in there, but it's their system of digital currency, which has the requirements of your personalized information, your name, they want your name, your address, where you stay at, your date of birth, social security number, they want that. What are it? Who are your relatives? Your phone number. What else they can tie to you? What your last history of work, medical conditions, just the whole litany, your autobiography, they want it. Because everything done under that central banking system with this new digital rollout is going to be pegged and tied to somebody so that if anything is done outside of their rules, justice in their way of doing it can be doled out very quickly and without prejudice. Everything. You mess up, oh, your social score tanks. That's in there too. No longer just a credit score, it's a social score. And if your social score goes too low, then guess what? You're suspended from certain activities. Why? Because they got your information. You're now in the fishbowl. They got us all in the fishbowl. Oh, yeah. See, so-and-so over there. See, Mary over there. Yeah. She did this and she did that. You know how I could tell? Because, look, she can't do nothing. She over there asking people for help, but she must have done something bad. Not always the case, but this is the central banking system moving forward. The decentralized is where the people have come together and said, listen, you all over there can keep your nonsense over there. But over here, this is what we're doing. We don't have to put our information into an account to operate a secure platform for what we have that is locked up into, quote unquote, a wallet, which is our secure financial, basically, vault that no one else can get into. And if we lose the method to be able to get into it, then guess what? We can't get into it either. That's how secure it is. So we have to make sure that whatever we have here, we keep it. Print it out if we got to. Copy, paste, print it. Put it somewhere. Later. So if anything happens, the device goes down, whatever, you can still get back into your account. But here's the other good thing about it. Let's just say somebody was able to get past the encryption, which is not likely. Simply not likely. But let's say somebody were to get past it and they open up the wallet to see the information inside. Guess what they'd find? A bunch of numbers. Bunch of numbers. But nothing that says this wallet belongs to Mary Beth, who lives at 123 Grand Street, anywhere, USA. Zip code 0xxx0. Phone number 909-111-2233. Date of birth 1/1/1980. Social 123456789. None of that's there. So guess what? They don't even know whose wallet it is. And here's the other thing. They can't even see the transactions. It's not there. This is the decentralized side, which respects your privacy and respects you as a man, as a woman, as a human being. Realizes that, hey, our privacy's been compromised. All our stuff is out everywhere. Everybody who wants to know what we do, when we do it, who we do it with, how we do it, is out there on display for the world. Now, do you really want that? But what about my benefits? What about them? Keep them on that side. You want to transfer them over to your decentralized side? Sure you can. Do whatever you want to do, because transactions can be made side to side. Yes, they can. It's called exchanges. Still over here, you got your privacy, because once it crosses this side of the fence, guess what? Their whole system doesn't even work over here. It doesn't work on the decentralized side. This is what has happened. But the whole story is not coming out. Why? Because as long as only one side of the story is controlled by those who control the storytellers gets out there, then guess what? Everybody only thinks about one side of the coin. They don't know that there's another side. And as long as they don't know there's another side, guess what? This one side will continue to thrive. And people will be debt slaves, money slaves, information slaves forever. forever. Now, Bitcoin is a decentralized currency. It's one example, one out of many. Not saying that that's what this is about, but I'm giving you an example. Bitcoin started back, I think it was 20 years ago, I think. It was like 1/10 of 1 penny or something when it first came out, and everybody was like, what is this? Nobody knew. I didn't know. Had I known back then that this thing was, the coins were going to be worth $100,000 per coin, I would have jumped in back then and got all that I could get, because I would have been a multi-millionaire right now. $10 would have made me, okay, I'm done. I'd have my privacy. I'd have been able to purchase, do everything, not because of the amount I have, but because I can manipulate it. I can use it. I can use it with other people who want to take it. For example, let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, we have grown-up coin. Let's just say GUC, grown-up coin, and it's decentralized. Now, let's say I have some, you have some, we all have some. And let's say I provide a service. Let's say I play music. I DJ for people's events. And let's say you provide vegetables. You grow a little garden or a few little gardens. And let's say you give instructions on how to grow too. And somebody else does something else. They type up documents for people. And let's say other people might make clothing, do patterns or whatever. They do this. And let's say other people are coaches of some type, or, they provide some type of mentorship. Other people might cater. Other people might provide transportation with their cars. Yeah, all of these things they do. And let's just say somebody says to me, hey, we heard you can play music. We're having a wedding and we want you to play at our reception. How much are you going to charge us? And I understand that maybe they don't know about a decentralized system yet, but they're used to paying in the money that they're used to paying with. And I say to them, okay, I'll tell you what. You want me to play for 4 hours? It's $250 an hour. That's $1,000 that I'm going to, require you to pay me in dollars. However, if you pay me in grown-up coin, GUC, it's half the price. You only pay me $500 in that. What do you think they're going to do? Exactly. How do we pay you in this? You know what I'm going to say to them? I'm glad you asked me. Because I'm going to point them to the way to be able to get that coin, so that they can use that coin now for my services, for your gardening services, for your tutorial services on how to garden, for your services on how to receive information that can be of assistance to your services where you make outfits, maybe for newborns, for infants, for children and grown-ups. You take measurements. Yes, you have material. How do you have material? Well, you have a bunch of customers who use this coin. You say to the material shop, hey, listen, I got a bunch of customers using this coin. Would you consider accepting this alongside of this for the materials that you get? And then, oh, you got a lot of people using this coin. Well, sure. Then guess what? Now people can use it in that business. It's that simple, that axiomatic, that easy. Why? Because it serves us. When a government, quote unquote, becomes destructive to the people that it serves and to its own ends, it is the right of those people to abolish it. So therefore, if it doesn't serve to protect our interests and to protect us from quote unquote, having our information stolen and spread all everywhere for everybody to see and know about us and then track us digitally so that everybody can watch where we're going and watch what we're doing like we're an ant farm. And then tax us to death. And give us crap for the stuff that we spend for it, and give us less and less of it and charge more. And guess what? We don't have to deal with that. Guess what we just did? Guess what just happened? People said enough is enough. We're going to hit them where they can't hit us back, in their pocket. But we're not going to take it from them. We're not going to take their stuff. We don't want their stuff. We're going to start our own. And guess what? They started their own, and it grew, and it grew, and it grew, and it grew, and it grew. Now, guess what? If you want to boycott now, say, we're not going to do it. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to our local bodegas, our local grocery stores, our local barbershops, our local beauty salons. And we're going to tell them, hey, listen, I've been using this grown-up coin here, and I've been able to buy this, I've been able to pay for this, this, and this. There's my receipts right here. Oh, really? Mm-hmm. These particular producers, these particular utilities, these particular places, they all take it. Here's a list. Call them up right now. I can actually order food right now and have it delivered here and use this digital currency to pay for it and have it delivered right here. The same stuff that you would pay for a dinner, a nice decent dinner, you might pay $30 for it. Delivery charge maybe $5, $35. I'll get it here for $17 using this grown-up coin. Well, how do I do that? I'm glad you asked. Because this coin grows a community. A community, not a network, a community. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, sounds like a marketing scheme. Like, yeah, but hey, it may sound like it, it may look like it. What the difference is that this is not based on someone pushing you up so that they come up under you. You got to maintain that. No, this is about growing a community of people who connect to you and all want the same thing. And we all benefit off the same thing. And we all help each other grow because everything that we do is now based on seed. Plant a seed here, comes back. They plant a seed here, it comes back. It goes everywhere. And then guess what? We have a currency that now we own, that we use, that works for our purposes, and that gains a whole lot of traction in a whole lot of places. And guess what? If the buses say, well, we don't want to take that, we say, fine, we're going to go buy our own vehicles, and we're going to pay our own drivers in this coin, and now we're going to have a service that more people are going to come over here and use. Suppose, now I'm just putting this out here, but suppose your paratransit service that has these old rickety vehicles that shake every time they go over a bump in the road, feel like they're going to fall apart. The seats are throwing you up in the freaking ceiling. You got to have a seatbelt just to secure yourself there. May as well wear a helmet too, just in case, right? Suppose you say, okay, enough of this. I'm tired of fighting with you. Guess what? Now we can co-op together. Why? Because we have the means to do it. We have our own decentralized system, and we go and we purchase these vehicles with these coins that have credibility. And because we have the numbers. And we have people that they call what? Street mechanics, whatever. They'll work on them because they got skills. They can fix them up, maintain them, whatever. And what they make for doing that in the grown-up coin, they can go out and pay for where they stay at because maybe their landlord not fixing them. Maybe they were able to buy a property. They can go buy food. They can, afford utilities. Yeah, they can exchange the coins. Yes, that's the whole thing. And the centralized banking system knows this, and they know there ain't nothing they can do about it. Because guess what? They took the model from the people. The people started this first. And then they came along with their coins, XRP and XSG and all of this other stuff, centralized banking coins, so that they could keep their system going. They took our idea. Now look at that. They know there ain't nothing they can do about it because now it gives us a choice. But do they want you to know about that choice? I don't think so. So when you say, we're not going to pay rent, we're not going to pay rent in that money over there, but we'll pay you in this right here. And we'll pay you everything that you say that we owe you in this right here. We'll pay you in this. But if you want us to continue to sit here in solidarity with all 1 million of us in this city, or 500,000 of us in this city who have each other's back, and say, listen, we didn't say we wouldn't pay you. We put a condition on it. We said we will pay you, but in this species of currency, this decentralized currency right here, this grown-up coin, we'll pay you in this. And you can take this and use it in a plethora of places to get the very same things that you get in the money you use now, but for much less and better quality. More affordability. And it's stable. And hey, you can actually exchange this on the international market too if you wanted to. Now that you have your own currency that's run by the people and for the people, now you're free to go ahead and make deals outside because you're not regulated under a central system that says that they're the only ones that can do that. It's like every single one of us having our own type of unincorporated association. This has already taken place. We need to be aware of this, but not every decentralized coin platform is gaining traction. So there's still some things for you to know. Now, I have perused some. I have dealt with some. I am dealing with some. And I must say the ones that I have dealt with and I'm dealing with, and I have listened to others who have more knowledge than me and mentor me, I have no regrets. None whatsoever, because I see exactly what it's doing. It's bringing people together who are saying, we're tired of this old nonsense over here. We're tired of the piss water. And we're tired of the Lincoln logs. We don't want this no more. We don't want the stress. We don't want the anxiety. We don't want the anger. We don't want the hatred. We don't want none of that. All of that can stay where it came from on that other side. Those who want to deal with that, stay over there. But this is what we got here. And we're going to keep this. This serves us, we're going to keep it. And we're going to continue to let it serve us. Now, I'm going to say that you can take this as an assignment if you would like to. You don't have to. But I want you to be familiar with decentralized banking and currency as well as central banking and currency. Because when we come back, we're going to unpack this, and we're going to have some alternatives and some options that we're all going to be ready to be able to look at, to discuss, and to, if we wish, begin with. And it doesn't mean you have to abandon anything that you have already, no. But it's like you already have a garden over here, vegetables growing, but you want to grow a tree over there. So you take a peach seed or a cherry seed or a seed from a plum or an apple, and you have it in a pot already, and you have a sapling growing up. And you're going to take it over, some distance over there in the ground and put it over there and let this thing start growing. And you're going to maintain and care for it. Make sure that it blooms. But while over here you have something already, but this is going to benefit you while this is growing. And is it going to take long to grow? No, not at all. Because it builds a community. Not only is it your tree, but others come by and say, hey, I got some nice mulch here to put into the soil. Yeah, come on, put it in. Hey, listen, I got some water with some nice little elements in it, other, like minerals and stuff that can really, enrich the soil and the plants grow. Can we put, hey, I got some copper and I got some zinc, some wires and metal, that I can put in here that can really supercharge and help this thing to grow faster and healthier and keep the pests off of it. Can I put this in the ground? Yeah, go right ahead. Everybody contributes. Now this thing starts to grow miraculously at an amazing rate. And guess what? Everybody contributed. So now everybody can partake, and now they can do what? Plant more seeds. And we all do the same thing because we all think alike and want the same thing. Do we want that over there anymore that's been taking advantage of us and stepping on our necks and on our backs for so long, giving us headaches, high anxiety, stress, shortness of breath, and just like wanting to scream at the top of our lungs? Do we want that anymore? Do we want that to be the only option that we ever have in this life? Or do we want to step out and say, you know what, later for that. I can use that when I need to. But I'm here. I'm here. So, those of you who want to, just get some information about centralized and decentralized thinking. So that when we come back next week, put in what you found out. And then we can take this somewhere else. And hopefully this think tank can be the ones that move forward, reach out for others, and help to grow this thing bigger, stronger, faster. Floor is open for any dialogues, any questions, any comments, any thoughts. Floor is open. Star 6 to take yourself off of mute. And while you're getting your thoughts together, I just want to once again make a mention about tomorrow. That's right. It's August the 8th. Those of us on the line, on the network, we know what that means to our new listeners, returning listeners as well. Tomorrow we have our Disease Prevention Convention and Health Forum, hosted by the Grown Folk Talk and Express Yourself Network. The location is in Newark, New Jersey at the YMCA, 600 Broad Street. That's the main street in downtown Newark, New Jersey. The YMCA is at the corner of Rector Street, Rector Street. And it is right next to the New Jersey Performing Arts Center. Okay? It's also across catty corner to Military Park. And it's in the vicinity of Whole Foods Market as well as the Robert Treat Hotel. So it's surrounded by everything, and the actual Newark Museum and Public Library are on its westerly side. So that's tomorrow from 12 noon to 6 p.m. 20 speakers, vendors there with all different types of health, drinks, tonics, foods, and other services that will be offered. I do believe I heard something about massages as well. That may be going on there as well. Also, Leslie Wright is joining us for the second time here in New Jersey. She was here last year with us, and this year she's coming back again to tell us about what she's discovered, new products that she now has created, and guess what? She is a proprietor and compounder of all of her own products. Yes, indeed. So she will be joining us. She's also a keynote speaker tomorrow. Yours truly, I will be there. I will be speaking a little bit. And we'll definitely be looking forward to all of you on the line joining us tomorrow there. Also bringing your friends there tomorrow. I believe the cover charge is $5. And that's just very, very nominal there for everything that will be there and that you will be able to partake of. So we definitely want you all to come out. I believe it's also going to be live streamed. So I know that a lot of seats have been purchased already. Quite sure that we still have a few left, more than a few, but get your plans to be there now. And we'll definitely see you there tomorrow. So, we definitely want you to come in. Definitely spend the day with us. Get to meet some podcasters that you hear on the network. And let's sit down. Let's have a good time. And most importantly, let's get our health on. All right. So, with that being said, everybody, the floor is open. Once again, the floor is open. Floor is open. And don't forget, tonight, Vine will be done with host Ed will be airing tonight. Ed will be a little bit behind us, but he will be coming in tonight to join us. So yours truly will be holding it down, and we'll have an open discussion until Brother Ed comes in. But he will be here tonight. So we'll just transition right over once Xtra-Hype Connection podcast concludes. So the floor is open. Dialogue is open. Anybody who would like to add anything to what we heard this evening, anybody who would like to ask a question, anybody who would like more information, guess what? I will share with you my contact information. And if you would like to, we can have a conversation or dialogue offline. And I can actually put you in touch with some of my mentors that I trust, that have actually given me information that I do not regret. So, floor is open. Floor is open. *6 to unmute your line. *6. And tonight we're talking about breaking out of the cocoon. Yes, the old system, the old way of doing things. The one thing that controlled it all was the money. And now that everything has been compromised, all of our identities have been compromised, and everything works on that money system, now something else in play for us, a decentralized system, which gives us our privacy and our anonymity back, as well as our own value that is already in play and working today. This is what we've been talking about. The difference between centralized and decentralized systems. So, anyone else with a final thought? Anyone else with another question? Anyone else that has something else? Please feel free. Star 6 to unmute your line.
This is Jennifer again. I just wanted to say the streaming, I believe it is going to be streamed tomorrow. It's going to be streamed on Facebook, on the Facebook page, if I'm not mistaken. And the proper address for the grown folk, for this grown folk talking Facebook page is grown, GROWN, folk, FOLK, talking, TALKIN, express, EXPRESS, yourself, YOURSELF, and you must add P as in Paul, P as in Paul, and N as in Nancy for Progressive Podcast Network. Otherwise, there's a lot of grown folk talking out there, and we don't want you to get on the wrong page and miss the stream. But, of course, we prefer and we ask, if at all possible, come on out and join us face to face. Okay? And with that, I rest.
Boy,
Thank you, Brother Joffrey.
Thank goodness we got a speller. Thank the
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, Joyce. Joyce, would you like to announce your podcast show? Yes, podcasters.
Well, I'm not
would
on.
you like to announce your show, please?
I'm not on tomorrow, so it doesn't. I don't have to. I'm not on tomorrow. I'll be out in Jersey. Why do you have it all the way out there? Good Lord, it's like traveling to Siberia or something. But I'll be here.
Yes, indeed. See, we want you out there, Joyce. Why? Because we like you.
Oh, boy. And in the heat, too. You can't do it in the winter when the weather's nice. I'm not a hot weather.
Yeah, okay.
I'll see you tomorrow. Look forward to it.
Well, I just want to let the listening audience know that, no, you won't be on tomorrow, but afterward, after tomorrow, on Saturdays at 4 in the afternoon, Eastern time. You call in right here to this number that you called into and listen to Just Joyce and Friends. That's her podcast. Saturdays, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the Grown Folk Talk and Express Yourself Progressive Podcast Network. Just Joyce and Friends at 4 p.m. Saturdays.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is Joffrey again. I have to say thank you, Joyce. I've been listening and I've been wanting to hear from you because tonight has been a think tank.
And I've been pushing that how long?
Okay, so what I'm talking about is let's have some contribution, if you will. So you can say you are a part of a think tank. There you
go. You got a point. You got a point.
Now, are there any other podcasts? I know I heard some others, but would love for you to come on and just announce your shows for the future reference. I know a lot of us tomorrow, or usually on Saturdays, won't be hosting shows, but I do believe there might be one or two shows on tomorrow. I'm not quite certain, but I know we have an 8 o'clock show, 8 p.m. show tomorrow. And I believe that is, well, no, we won't. No, we won't, because That will be Melvin, and Melvin will be with us tomorrow in Jersey. So no, we won't even have an 8 p.m. show. So no, we won't even have a roster tomorrow. But if anybody else who's a podcaster is on here, you have a Saturday show or any show day of the week, please feel free to announce your show.
Excuse me, Marcus, is Sister Carol taking off? Is she taking off the prayer call at 7?
No, not at all. Miss Carol will have the prayer call tomorrow at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on the Grown Folk Talk and Express Yourself Network. Call in tomorrow about 10 minutes to 7, 5 minutes to 7 a.m. and be a part of the prayer call. It is a perfect and a great way to start your day. That will be on tomorrow at 7 a.m. All right. Anyone else? Would you like to announce your podcast show for our listeners?
Yes, permission to speak.
Let me think about it. Okay.
Okay, Chandra, our life lessons will not be on this Sunday. I'll see my...
Will you return the following Sunday?
Huh?
Will you be returning the following Sunday?
Yes, I'll be with my besties the week after.
Okay, great. All righty.
All righty.
All right. Anyone else?
This is Joffrey again. I'm a little confused. Our life lessons, when does that air?
What's that?
When does our life lessons come on?
Sunday at 3. Sundays at 3.
Oh, Sundays at 3. Oh, okay. I was listening for someone to respond to Marcus and give up the name, the title, and the time of their podcast.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I could have called it Chandra's Life Lessons under some short essays that I had written, but to be inclusive, I named it Our Life Lessons. We all have them. Thank you, Joffrey.
Thank you, Chandra. Appreciate you for that. Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Joyce. And also, if there are any other podcasters on, I don't know if our CEO is on, but if so, if you'd like to come in and just have a word, that would be fine. Any other podcasters, that would be fine as well. And remember, tonight, Guiding Will Be Done, yes, is airing. However, yours truly will be definitely holding it down. Fred, he's got some business he's handling. And once he is concluded with his business, he will definitely be here to take you into the marathon. And I hope everybody's going to be able to get some good rest to be at the Disease Prevention Convention and Health Forum tomorrow. All right? So, with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to you, Flofokuz. Brother, you know with this, you always got the last word. We'd like to hear from you, and then we're going to transition into Thine Will Be Good.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I do appreciate everyone speaking up and chiming in and sharing your perspectives today. There was so much said, so many things to be said, and, you know, I love where we landed, you know, and all of the questions and conjecture about what would be the right move for one person or another is kind of the whole idea here. And it's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all situation in any respect. So a lot of this is par for the course. You know what I mean? Take notes and just remember that once you get there, use what's important, use what is going to work for you. I just recently went to the Small Business Development Center in my county or city, whatever. And, you know, they got me an appointment coming up pretty soon. We're going to talk about, you know, business and how my big wackadoo ideas might actually turn into some kind of a feasible business proposition. You know what I mean? It's like, I got an idea. And they're like, okay, slow down there, bucko. Let's start from, you know, square one. And they would take me through what I'm talking about, what is feasible and what we can kind of continue developing, depending on what makes sense and what doesn't. And that's what I think is important for a lot of us. We don't exactly have direction, you know, and then we need professionals that can actually help us figure out with our personal situation what would be the right move. So then it comes to people with benefits and Social Security, SNAP and things like that. There's a place for us to go before we actually start talking to the Small Business Development Center is the Work Incentives Planning and Assistance Office. And this is where we meet community work incentive coordinators. These are the same as the people with the CBDC, except they're kind of telling you what any changes in your income is going to do in reference to your benefits. Before it happens, there's all hypothetical stuff you're talking about with these people. You know what I mean? So that you're not going in there making any commitments, okay? And we don't want to jam ourselves up when we start building our confidence. This is what it's all about. It's all about removing fear, building confidence, however you want to put it, and then adding community. There's people out here who want to see you win, like me and Marcus and Ed and everyone here on the Grown Folk Talking Express Yourself Progressive Podcast Network and the greater Xtra-Hype Connection family. We're all here to see not only ourselves do better, but everyone around us, you know, because the more that everyone can help themselves, the less that we have to help those in need. You know, it's not so much a burden conversation, it's a duty situation. It's like people are around us, they need help. And not all the time is that kind of help that we give able to be captured on paper and recorded and we get recuperated for it. There's another conversation I wanted to have when we were talking about centralization versus decentralization. I really think the question is what is official versus invisible. The things that we're doing here on this podcast are valuable, but how do we report this as value? You know, so we have to capture it in a mechanism of our own, translate it into something that then the system can capture. That's kind of what the idea behind decentralization is for. It's another official system that helps us count that then the official system, that the official standard can translate into. That's more or less all we're doing. We're translating our energy into something that someone else can use. If Mary grew apples, how do I get apple pies? I also need flour from Joey. I need X, Y, and Z. So I need something that they all can utilize. So someone said, let's do a centralized way of doing this. Because that's all there was at first, right? We were all bartering. It's like, hey, a bushel for a lamb, right? But then kind of starts getting a little bit out of sync. Things don't add up anymore. So now we have to begin a standard, whether it's a tally stick where you break a stick in half and you cut the part and you split it down the seam and you get the short end of the stick and come back when you have another 10 bushels. You know what I mean? Whatever it ends up being, it's just a way to count. It's all accounting. So a lot of the duties, a lot of the efforts we put in doesn't get counted. And a lot of the things that we do can't be counted. I mean, the wave of that young lady across the street that just makes your day. The smile on the ticket, the person takes a ticket to say, hey, enjoy your ride. They didn't just take your ticket, stamp it, and give it back to you with a I'm just doing my job attitude. It was a have a nice day, and I hope you enjoy yourself type of attitude. If there's a way to monetize that, we'd all be millionaires. There would be no reason not to smile every day. But those kind of things aren't captured, not the way that they can be useful to other people. When I see a smile, I hold myself and I say, wow, what a lovely day I'm going to have, because I just saw a smile on someone else's face that makes me want to have a smile. Now I'm going to give that smile to someone else. That's what I do. Someone might not feel that way. They might need 10 smiles to start giving a smile. So what is their smile worth? Once they give it, maybe worth 10 times. Who knows? These are the questions, and I don't have the answers. But the idea is that we want to figure out ways to capture what's not being captured. The time, energy, and effort that we spend at a job that then they decide to fire us on the pay on the third day of the pay week when they could have done this before I decided to get prepared for the whole weekend or after the whole weekend. All these different ways where it's like, oh, you could have done this a different kind of way instead of wasting my time, energy, and effort, giving me the chance to make a pivot. There's a lot of ways where we miss the bus, that the bus driver they know they saw us and they just pulled off anyway because it's like, hey, listen, I've got a schedule to keep, and you don't know how many people I've been waiting for. I tried to give you a chance, but I couldn't give you this one. And maybe that's going to make someone's day so terrible that the next person that interacts with them, they actually take it out on someone else. All of this is uncaptured, maybe for a reason, but once we start talking about how we value ourselves, we might be able to figure out the confidence to tell someone what our value actually is. That's what I think is the most important out of all of my rambling. Because at the end of the day, we only do this because we love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. So if Barry White has arrived, I do want to pass the mic off to him because Thine Will Be Done with Brother Ed is coming up next time. All right. And if he's not here yet, then so be it. We can continue with extra hours here with Xtra-Hype Connection podcast. And I do look forward to more people showing up to the official location of the Grown Folk Talking think tank. I guess you guys could say the Xtra-Hype Connection think tank, right? ProLogicStrategies.com/groups. And then you can just start creating groups there yourselves, right, guys? And at the end of the day, this is what it's here for. This is for us to come up with all these wackadoo ideas, figure out what makes sense, and start hitting the ground running. Because we've been too long afraid of making a move that no motion is backward motion. At least let's make some slow motion so that it's not like we're making no motion at all. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to say goodnight, everybody, because I don't know where everybody is. But do make sure you tune in Monday. We will be back again with the Grown Folk Talking Xtra-Hype Connection podcast. What I say? The Xtra-Hype Connection podcast on the Grown Folk Talking Express Yourself Progressive Podcast Network, where we'll have our next installment of the Bite Size Podcast, where you all can bring your 2 cents to the table and we can have a question and answer section afterwards. But I'll go ahead and land this plane. Make sure you put your tray tables and your seats in their upright and secure positions. Your stewardess will be around to collect your trash, and have a safe trip. And until next time, everyone, good night, everybody.
And everybody, we are concluding the Xtra-Hype Connection podcast. However, Thine Will Be Done is now Brother Ed will be with us in just a short spell. So until that time, we welcome you to sit back, relax, and let's have an open dialogue. Brother Ed, usually, I believe he does start with some music. However, I will reserve that for his arrival. And in the meantime, the in-between time, I would like to say that everyone here, consider yourself a landed estate mogul. In other words, everywhere that the sole of your feet treads, you have an interest in every piece of property, land, dirt, cement, asphalt, brick, concrete, cinder block, wood, pavers, stone, marble that you land on. It really is all for your benefit, but there are some rules to this. We didn't just inherit this just to have it. We were given all of this to maintain, to actually cultivate, and to foster the growth of what we have put out. So in other words, you have your slice over here, this one has a slice over there, this one has a slice over there of this great gigantic pie. And it does belong in your care because you actually hold chain of custody. You share chain of title. Now, I'd like to ask the listening audience here, is anybody familiar with the meaning of chain of custody, chain of title? Is anyone familiar with that? And if you are, please share your information on that with all of us, please.
Okay, this is Joffrey, and to help some folks along, anyone who has ever had occupation where you had to have a physical, certainly you've heard at least one of those terms, chain of custody, and that's where they mark your name down and they seal up this and they put your name on that to identify, and they close up the mailer and they send it off, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I don't want to answer the question. I just want to hear from other people, because I'm tired of hearing my voice. I'm going to start playing music when I start talking. I yield.
Thank you for that one. Anybody familiar with these terms, chain of custody, chain of title? Because it has a lot to do with our being here and our thoughts being manipulated to someone else's imposed belief system. So in other words, somebody, okay, you got the floor if you would like to speak. That's right, take yourself off mute, star 6, you got the floor if you'd like to speak.
Marcus?
Yes, stop it.
I believe the storm has passed. I don't know what these phantom voices are that you're hearing. But
okay.
Maybe you're getting an echo. We're not hearing these people that you keep hearing. But to the silent majority out there, please don't leave Marcus hanging. You know, it's we who make the podcast. by participation. We make the podcast.
If you don't know the answer, what? Just say anything?
Well, say anything, and at least you
Anything.
acknowledge, there you go, at least you acknowledge that you're here. And I you.
There we go. There we go.
Marcus,
Okay, I
what
think
is
we're
the
back.
answer?
The chain of title, chain of custody.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for that answer,
Time
I will
here.
defer to.
each day.
Okay,
by
Chandra.
God's grace, we are afforded the opportunity.
That's her answering machine.
The
Don't.
obligation to change our lives
How did that
in
happen?
any positive way.
I have no idea. That's the
Keep
voicemail.
moving in God's grace and care. And remember, after the rain, God promised the rain. Oh, what's going on? Hello?
Your voicemail came up. We don't know. We're waiting for Marcus's answer.
Okay. Yeah, this is some crazy stuff. My grandson had called, so I had to, switch over, and then I get all this stuff. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Continue, Marcus. I'm on pins and needles.
Yeah. I'm sorry about that.
Listen, these modern contraptions do what they want. Please.
Yeah. Thank God I wasn't cussing.
Okay. That would have been very colorful. But let me ask Flo, are you still on with us? Focus, you still on with us? I like his explanation.
Yes.
Those
Yes, I am.
Would you be so gracious as to give us your understanding of chain of title and chain of custody, and kind of like as it applies, to situations?
Yeah, well, it's fairly simple. I'll use basically the one that most of us are going to be familiar with when we buy a car, or whenever someone buys a car. It starts at the manufacturer because they're the ones who put it all together, and then they got a manufacturer's title. It just says it was made here. This is the name of it, numbers, words. There you go. Stick it on the window, send it out the door, put it on the dealership. Now the dealership, I don't know if they own it or if they're just using it to pass it on to you, who then is quote unquote buying it. So now you get put onto the title as the next owner, so that now when you sell it, that next owner gets put on the title as the next owner, and so on. So that's called chain of title, because there is a chain of custody that's happening. So they're basically the same thing. You have a succession of what's being handled, be it information, property, or whatnot. I wanted to be as concise as possible. Did everyone follow that appropriately? I hope so.
So change of title has to just do with cars?
No, chain. We're saying chain, like a link in a chain.
Yeah, like a chain. Yeah, chain of title.
Yes.
Only.
And it's I'm using the car as a reference to what the concept of chain of title is. So yeah, in that concept, it's a car. But in another concept, it could be evidence in a case, right? Police shows up to the crime scene. Freeze, put your hands up. Oh, take off the scene. Oh, get a perimeter. Oh, goodness, what happened here? Start getting some statements. And, all right, and who's in charge here? Who saw whatnot? All right. Now you got a smoking gun over here. You got your, the casings over there. It's a bloody napkin, whatnot. All that stuff is then placed into evidence. And now all that stuff gets logged. Wherever the heck it went, got to get written down, who took it out and who put it back. You know what I mean? It's all chain of title, chain of custody. You know, it's more or less all the same.
May I, Joyce, earlier I mentioned, and you being in transportation, I know you were affected. There were times when you had to do blood work at the order of your employer. And if you notice how they sealed everything up and you had to sign off, that was a chain that was begun. Everyone that received your blood had to sign. That's chain of custody. Okay, everyone along the pathway. Even when you go in the hospital, they sign off. It's a chain that occurs so that at any point in time, if they want to see who handled this blood or who handled this package or even with package, UPS, FedEx, USPS, okay, when you send something certified, okay, it starts to change when you deliver it to the window clerk, all right, for certification. That starts to change. And if you ever do the tracking, there you go, tracking, you can see where your package is almost at any time. See, so chain of custody, chain of title goes hand in hand with tracking. And I yield there.
Thank you.
That was a great explanation, Brother Johnson. Tracking is such a great way to put it. I appreciate that.
Now, I would like to offer something else on that particular topic, just to piggyback. Chain of title, and I'll use the example that Flo gave about, cars. We all know that motor vehicles get a title to every car that is registered that we know of, that people buy. It's kind of weird in a way how you buy a car, but they get the title. A copy of this title, but they're still allowed to make the rules as to how you're going to use this thing that you just paid for. Now, do they own the roads? No, they don't own the roads. But here's how this goes. With their chain of title, the reason they can do what they do is because they have imposed a lien against the vehicle that you bought. And how did they do that? Well, when we filled out those papers to register, there was a section in that registration that dealt with lien holders that nobody ever filled out. We left that blank. Well, guess what happened? They filled that out. And when they filled that out, they made the vehicle that we just registered a part of their fleet. That's right, motor vehicle fleet. And they then took chain of title in the first position as the first lien holder on that vehicle. So in other words, you were indebted to do something according to the rules that they made, such as registering, insuring, getting plates, following the vehicle code that they made. They're not really the rules of the road. They're the vehicle code for their fleet of vehicles. So if you can follow that progression, you're basically locked into a situation where you have purchased something, but this agency is regulating your use of it based on the fact that they have put themselves as the first interested party in a lien relationship, meaning that someone is in debt and someone is owed a duty, which is a debt. But they don't just do it with cars. What other titles or certificates come out that you could think of that there's a first position lien on and someone has a split title effective, other than motor vehicle?
This is Alfred. Before we go to that, I recall a particular podcast I was listening to, and you just said we fill out, but if you've ever bought a car, an automobile, you notice it's seldom us that are filling out the paperwork. Rather, it's someone filling out the paperwork for us, and all we're doing is describing our signature. And we don't even have to go down to the title company to register. They take care of that as well. And what they do is there's a particular box. There's a particular box that speaks to the use of the vehicle that we never see because we don't do the paperwork. And they check that box off unbeknownst to us that it renders it a commercial motor vehicle. I could be wrong, but I do think I recall that from a certain podcast some months ago, and I yield with that.
Yes, and you are correct, Joffrey. But when people go into a dealership, whether it's a new car dealer or a used car dealer, it doesn't matter, to purchase some type of, automobile, you're right. The salesperson is the one filling out all the paperwork, quote unquote, on our behalf, which is an assumed power of attorney. Without being, technical yet, it's kind of like they're doing it because, sort of we let them. We didn't say, oh, no, I'll take care of that myself. We let them do it, so they did it, and they fill it out the way that they're taught to fill it out, which is to select certain, check boxes and enter certain information into a commercial section of this particular application, which then identifies that automobile for commercial use purposes. Yes. And so, with that being the case, and without us actually going over this to see what was done, we now sign off on this, and that seals the deal. You know how they say, you should trust somebody but verify what they do? The dealer, salesperson might say, hey, yeah, you can trust me. Good, but I want to see what you did after you do it. If you don't mind, I'd just like to see what you done. And I'd like you to sit here and explain to me why you selected the things you selected when I look at it. Now, of course, they're going to hem and haw about it, which then should probably tell you that There's something more going on here than what you might think you're seeing or what you're hearing. But yeah, you are right, John. That is exactly what happens. And that's where the title becomes a split between equity and contract. Well, it's equity, and what's the other one? I want to say commercial. It's commerce. Yes, it's business and equity, because those two are actually separate. They're not the same. They're not supposed to be running the same. They're actually two sides of a coin, like central and decentralized. Equity and commercial don't mix, because one has to do with fundamental principles of traditions and customs. The other has to do with business dealings and contracts in ways of settling accounts through, business means. Basically, everybody's contracting, everybody's basically doing business. There is no fairness. It's only what it is, staunch application of whatever their quote-unquote business law is. Equity finds relief where there is no relief. So in other words, if you're wronged by something or someone and the law does not provide a remedy, equity says, well, there must be one. So if one has to be made at that point in order for somebody to get relief, then that's what is done. That's what equity does. But we have these split titles between equity and commercial. Just like right now, in the system that we see right here, we have split titles with a lot of things. Equity, commerce, so many other things where titles are split. And check this out. Here's the craziest one of all, but it's real. We have split titles between people and entities. So we know that we're people. We know that we're men. We know that we're women. We know that. But it was always kind of weird to me how a woman could just give birth. And here comes a nurse or a hospital staff member, I won't call him a nurse, but a hospital staff member, who comes in with this clipboard, this ink pen, and these papers talking about, oh, let me ask you these questions. Now, wait a minute. Think about this for a minute. This woman just came the closest in her life to the threshold of death because of what was going on in her body at the time. And you mean to tell me that after all of this, you want to come in here with a clipboard and a pad talking about, oh, can we ask you some questions? Hell no. No. Can't ask no questions. Get out of here. Go get a life. But those questionnaires that seem so innocent and innocuous because they come in with such a soft, subtle look and a smile on their faces. Oh, you got such a beautiful baby. Mm-hmm. Motives matter, don't they? People's intentions, they do matter, don't they? And when those papers are signed, you don't even have to fill them out. They'll fill in the information as long as you dictate, because then they can say, okay, well, you gave us permission by speaking what you wanted us to write on this pad. And then guess what? Those now become words of state. Because the name that you gave them got written down on the document, the pad that was being held there, and guess whose pad that was? It wasn't yours, was it? Didn't belong to you. You didn't create it. You didn't give it to the hospital staff and say, hey, after I give birth to this baby, bring this in here so you can write the name down. You didn't do that, did you? Father of the baby didn't do that either. None of y'all co-signed that. But guess what? When it was done, it created a split title, a chain of title, where the commercial interest became that of the entity, state, hospital, whatever. The equitable, which should be the fundamental fairness and tradition, which can't be separated, was on the other side. But the one that wins out is the one who actually wrote it on their form and submitted it for their process to be recognized, which would be the hospital, which would be legalization, which would be naturalization. So that's what happened with that. And that's where we have other examples of other types of titles. So if you understand that principle, which I'm quite sure everybody here does, now you can understand why your children can't do lemonade stands out in the summertime when it's hot like this with ice in the cooler, pitchers of lemonade or iced tea out there, and sell them to people, for whatever, on a hot day without a permit. Right. They say that your kids have to have a business permit and the parents have to apply for it in order to put the children out there to employ them to work. And then they have to make a certain wage. Like, wait a minute. This is just for the community. People are hot. It's warm out here. We got some ice cold iced tea, lemonade, whatever other kind of drink. You walk by, you want a glass of it, a tall, large glass or a medium-sized glass, whatever you want. You mean to tell me you want the children to get permits to do this? You want them to have permits to sell Italian ice? Where they shave the ice themselves and put the flavoring in there, and they bought their own little cup to give to people? You mean to tell me they have to have a permit from who? The ones who hold the chain of title. Right. What did they get with that chain of title? All of the information. And what information was just breached and compromised over the last 2 decades? All of our what? Information. So it even dials back there. So,
would somebody tell me why Doge wanted so much of America's information? For what reason? Does anybody know?
Well, it's open on that one. It was open.
I can't figure it out. What does that man want with all that information? He's from South Africa, running races roughshod over there. Now he's got all the information on Americans for what? Nobody seems to, or care, whatever. Okay, thanks.
Let's unpack that. Now, we can add to this, but I'll start with what I understand. I'm not saying this is right. I'm not saying I got it right. But from what I understand, the purpose of that particular action goes with what's happening now. It was, in a sense, a way to justify what people only thought was happening, but had no proof of what was taking place, which was all of this nonsense that people knew was taking place but could not prove was taking place. So in other words, if we go back to Training Day with Denzel, who said to Ethan Hawke, he said, okay, you know some things, but what can you prove in court? What can you prove? You can't prove anything. You think that my guys are going to sit up here and support you? Where's your proof? Where's your evidence? Well, they knew what was happening. They knew that people who were over 200 and 300 years old were receiving Social Security payments. That raised a red flag. This had been on the books for years. And from what was said, they wanted to know why. Why are people who are over 200 years old receiving benefit checks? And can we see them? Can we look at them and tell that, yeah, they're alive? Anybody else? Got anything to add? Because like I said, I don't know that I have it right or that right, but that's what I know.
You're telling me they just want to make sure that you're not getting your Social Security and you're supposed to be 150 years old, that they're I think it's a little more sinister than that.
Well,
Can I add to that?
yes. Well, I said hello, Paige. Yeah, that's what they sold you. They sold you that there was supposed to be these ancient people that were still alive and collecting Social Security. So supposedly they wanted to go in there and find the fraud, waste, and abuse. And if anyone would listen to Dr. Ed Weir, who ran the third busiest Social Security office in the country for many years, on mygovexpert.com, he points out that yes, there's fraud, there's waste, there's even abuse. But this thing about these 200 and 300-year-old people still being alive and collecting is utterly false. And he has recently said that Elon Musk finally admitted that they were wrong. But again, it's the agenda. The agenda. Remember, they sell us. They sell us one thing while they're actively doing another, as Marcus pointed out with the hospital rep that comes in after the mother has the baby.
Yeah.
Comes in with a smile talking about how beautiful the ugly baby was. You know, in order to lower the guard. And then they start inquiring and filling out paperwork that they brought in on a clipboard that they had. Not something that you asked for, not something that you offered, and you really don't even know what they're taking this information for. Just like when they draw blood. Why do they draw so many tubes of blood?
Right.
Why is that necessary? See, we don't know. I know the last time I went, I'd heard that on one of the podcasts. These podcasts are amazing. And so the last time I went to the hospital, I told them, you get 2 vials, that's it. What you can't do with those 2 vials, you won't do. So anyway, that's what they tell us. But then it's this chain of title. It flows with what Marcus is talking about on Thine Will Be Done, this chain of title. Okay, they're gathering this information so that they can indeed move in and have authority over the things that you believe and you think you possess and own. And if you're a homeowner, you know, even after you pay that last mortgage payment, you don't own jack. Because if you don't pay taxes, they'll come and they'll take what you own. And in fact, you could pay the taxes.
And they tell
So
you,
when they get getting ready, they'll come and they'll say, "Well, we have eminent domain."
yeah,
See? So all this registration and also registration confers ownership to the one that you're registering it to. Okay? Why don't you register your own title? You own this, you own that. Because what we get are certificates of registration. We don't get registration, we get certificates of. And I'm talking too much, I yield.
May I add something?
It was open.
Okay. I believe it's all about control. When Doge came in, they had access to, especially for those of us on Social Security who have direct deposit, they have access to your banking information, which includes routing, the routing numbers, your institution. If you're on Medicare, they also have that information. And they also have your Social Security and all numbers and all that kind of things. It was proven in Congress in a hearing that they had these 19 and 20-year-olds who was going around and taking all this information and couldn't explain, where it went. About 2 years ago, I forgot what state it was, they were demanding that voter registration had to include Social Security numbers and different things like that. So we don't know. Well, they already had our information, but we don't know if maybe they're going to sell it, or you look up, it winds up on the dark web, and like my email and a whole bunch of stuff. It's like every year I'm getting a letter from my hospital that their information, a third party, was hacked. Social Security was hacked about 2 years ago, and they offered a 1-year monitoring. So I yield with that.
yeah, well, I call myself staying under the radar by not having direct deposit. But they still got. Listen, you can't. You're not going to hide. That's for sure. You're not going to hide from anybody. But I just want to know, what is Doge doing with so much? They said he's got over 300 million Americans' information. For what? What are you going to do with it?
I don't think it's going to be anything good. I tell you that.
You can bet some dollars. That's for sure. We're ever so much cannon fodder, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Privacy, that word has gone out with high button shoes. What's private?
I remember hot button shoes.
Well, low button shoes, whatever. New age of sneakers, okay? And I'm a fool because somebody tried to sell me shares in rubber back 16 years ago. Rubber? Who the hell wants rubber? I wouldn't even be on the phone with you all now if I had sharing rubber, because I'd be filthy. Everybody wears sneakers.
I remember the high button shoes.
Okay. Yeah, what is going on?
Well, can I just say, what's going on? Marcus is pointing out various things, but even though he's pointing them out, we also have seen them we also know a lot of it already. So why are we still asking the question, what's going on, when we know what's going on? It's being told to us, plus much of it we already know. Now, on the last podcast, he asked about possible solutions. Let us start focusing on, now that we know what's going on, what, if anything, we can do about it, instead of asking the same questions over and over again, because that's, in my not so humble opinion, a waste of time.
Well, I don't know what's going on.
Then,
sorry, but
okay, go on mute and listen then.
Well, Joyce, maybe you don't know what's going on with specific things, but overall, would you agree that things are or have changed?
Very much so.
Correct. Changed in a way that it has actually seemed to move our traditions and customs into, let's say, a system where we need to report on ourselves and others and be in compliance with rules on a system that seems to have overtaken ours, when it's really just a system that was created and put in front of us to choose to deal with.
So, in other words, we're to become tattletales, huh?
In a sense, we have. But when you think that it's the only game in town, remember this. The whole thing is to have people to believe a certain type of information that they don't question. So in other words, if somebody bakes pastries every morning and they give them out to people that are hungry, they say, here, have a muffin, have a bagel, have some coffee, have some tea, and start your day. Get something hot inside of your system, if it's cold, or have something warm, for the days that you need to have hydration, whatever. And then all of a sudden somebody comes by and says, hey, if you want to have these bagels and these muffins, you got to register. You got to give us all your information. Mm-hmm. That was not the original design. People have a tendency to do what? Because they see the benefit, they see the threat of it going away. If they don't do something which they think they have to do, what do? They go ahead and give up the information because they think they have to. Now, I'll give you a better example. I was in a situation with a guy wearing a white coat. I call him a quack because that's what he was to me. And he had a group of younger people sitting next to him. They're all sitting here. They got the syringe on the table. I'm sitting on the other side of the table. This dude in the white coat had a very thick accent. Now, he was darker than me. He wasn't from here. As a matter of fact, somewhere on the continent of Africa, somewhere from over there. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting there, we're all looking at each other. And he says to me, you have to take this. I said, who are you, P. Diddy?
No, you didn't.
And I said, you first. He didn't say anything.
Mhm.
And then one of his buddies said, well, we got this here because of this, that, and this, and the third, and this, and the third, right? I said, so what in the hell does that have to do with the price of tea in China? Crickets, right? So then God says to me, well, you have to take this. I said, okay. I said, since you didn't finish that statement, let me try to help you. I said, I have to take this so that what agenda you have can move forward. So this is not a requirement. It's just a hidden request so that you can move forward with your intentions. That's the only reason why you're saying I'm required. Because if I don't do this, then you can't finish what you want to do, but you can't force me into your activity. Now, can you? And he didn't say anything. And I told him, I said, I'm going to see you soon. And I got up and I walked out. Understand the game? This is what's going on overall. This is really what's going on.
I'm going through that with Social Security. Every check I get, it says that you're required to give us your or whatever the thing with the check, the written notice with the check. Oh, yeah, okay. It goes right in the garbage with the envelope, and I cash the check. Yeah, you're required to give us your routing. God, listen, the only thing I'm required to do is to stay black and die. Like my mother used to say, don't tell me what I'm required to do. Social Security has been saying that since, 2025, that you got to have a blah, blah, blah direct deposit. Go away.
Okay. So now, understanding that, is that, let's say, is that an engagement that you really want to invest in, knowing that this point, they really haven't tried to enforce anything on you? They're just letting you know. They're not really saying you have to, that it's mandatory, and that if you don't, these will be the results. They're not really saying that. But in a sense, what it is in most cases that might go for arbitration or mediation or even to court for legal process, they would say, well, this is just information, it's just a notice, but it's not telling you that you have to do this. They're just letting you know.
Isn't that what they did with the COVID vaccine? They told, as a matter of fact, I'm waiting for a friend of mine to get back to me, because what the teachers here in New York, I don't know what they did in Jersey, the teachers here in New York, they told them that if they didn't take the vaccine, they let them go.
Mm-hmm.
So they took the Department of Education to court, and they had to take those teachers back. They had to bring them back. But what they did was they got rid of their seniority. Now, who wants to work 10, 12 years somewhere and have somebody say, oh, you got to, you want your job back, you got to start out as a new junior. So a friend of mine whose lady works for the Department of Education, he says he will find out what people did. Are they suing now to get their seniority back or what? So there was all kind of stuff. Those shots were not mandatory, but in order to keep your job. That sounds mandatory to me. I like eating, so you mean to tell me I won't be able to? Yeah, okay. So
Well,
much.
it's like this. Well, the example that you're giving can be confusing. And the reason I say that is because it sounds like you have to you have to comply, you have to do this. However, it's like somebody saying, okay, you have to clean the sink after you wash dishes, which makes sense. But why? So that bacteria doesn't grow in the sink from scraps of food that are left behind that were not taken out. You cleaned the dishes, but you didn't clean the sink. So it's a result. It's like, okay, you have to do this in order for this thing to or not happen. So case in point, when there was an overreach and an overstepping into people's private lives and affairs, when families were getting lit apart and hit with all kinds of nonsense, and so-called rulings were handed out saying how long, and this is between people who had children. You're going to have visitation on these days, this time to this time. You're going to pay this amount while the children are here, and when they're with you in the summer, you're going to pay this amount back to them. And it just became ridiculous, right? And the thing was, they said, well, you have to do this. But what they didn't tell you was, you have to do this. And the reason you have to do this is because in order for us to continue to stay in business and keep fleecing you and getting these grants for every account that we open, you've got to stay in the system and you've got to give us your signature. Now, if they told you that completely that way, you'd say, hey, kiss my ass.
And keep it moving.
And keep it moving.
Yeah.
And you probably come back and you take a chunk of theirs. You know, but they're not going to do that. Now, if it's mandatory, they're going to tell you, listen, this is mandatory. That means that, okay, regardless of whatever you feel, think, or whatever, this has to be done. This is a rule. This is immutable. This must be done. Okay? And the thing is, it's already explained up front. This is what this is. This is what we're doing for this purpose right here, so and so and so. And this way of doing this is mandatory. No questions, no, nothing else. It's got to be done like this.
Got to be done.
Because here's the thing. I'm quite sure that we don't want somebody who's a sculptor who uses a chisel and a hammer to sculpt, an artsy kind of sketch into stone, putting that stuff in our mouth, talking about they're going to be doing the work of a dentist. I'm quite sure we don't want that. So what is it? It's mandatory that if you're going to go into dentistry, you have to know what tools to use. You have to have the knowledge of how the tools work and how to use them and what to do before you start messing in somebody's mouth. And this is mandatory. Now, that's an example of something mandatory. But when somebody says, well, listen, you got to stay indoors. We don't want you to get overcome by this. So it's like, wait a minute. That's my choice if I want to go against that or not. You can't tell me that you're going to decide what is and what is not good for me. I have the decision power to do that, not you. So that's a choice that we have. But when it's like this comes to, things staying in tow. In other words, you don't sit up here and put diesel fuel into an unleaded gas tank. A car that takes unleaded. You don't put diesel in there. Why? Because it's not going to run. Everything is going to conk out. Everything. And what do they say? Okay, if you want this car to continue to run, you're going to use this type of gas in here. Now, you research that. If you use any other type of gas in here besides what this car is rated for, this is what's going to happen. You ain't going to have no more engine. You're going to have to go get another car. So if you want that, then okay. Use anything other than the greater gasoline we tell you. But if you want this car to run, and you want to have this car for some years, and you don't want to have to buy another car because your engine blew up, then use this fuel in this kind of car. That's the mandatory thing, if you want to keep the car. Right. This isn't just an opinion. Well, I think you should use 89 octane in your car. Well, no, that's just your opinion. I can use 87, I can use 89, I can go up to 93, I can go up to 96. Whatever's there. But you saying 89 just means that that's just your opinion. But I still have the right to select within all these grades which one I want to use. And with that, I'm going to yield there. Anyone else? The floor is open. We're still continuing our think.
So good evening. I actually feel the same way about seatbelts.
Hello?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I feel the same way about seatbelts. Well, let me go back to COVID and New York City and de Blasio. When, what's his name? When Biden said he was going to make it mandatory for the vaccine, as soon as he said he was going to move to make it mandatory, de Blasio put mandatory in place. So that was really his fault. It was like E.F. Hutton took a deep breath and everything else fell apart. Mm-hmm. But I feel the same way about seatbelts, where it should be an option. It should be an option. It shouldn't be mandatory that you wear them. Now, I can see the safety seats for the children, but when it comes to adults, I mean, I've driven 285,000 miles in the last 6 years, and I haven't had an accident. But the seatbelt is very constraining, and it also can cause harm in some accidents. So I don't believe seatbelts should be a law. As well, police officers don't wear them, along with the tinted windows and using a cell phone. But I don't think it should be a law that we have to wear seatbelts. I don't want to count them, but I could only imagine the amount of people who go straight through the windshield with minor accidents is very low in comparison to not only the constriction in an accident where the seatbelts cause harm, but just wearing it in itself, depending on your body and the condition, what is it actually causing in terms of blood flow? So, yes, there's a lot of things that are out there. Just to switch over a little bit, they say even women shouldn't wear bras because it constricts the blood flow to the breast, to the chest, and especially those with the rods. And they say, switching again, men are not supposed to stand up to use the bathroom because when you're standing, your muscles are constricted. So you may feel you're flowing because that's your normal way, but that is not natural, and that's not how we teach our sons potty. They're sitting down. And so there's a lot of few things out there that we conform to, as well speaking in that area of circumcision. That is a religious act. It has nothing to do with anything else about. If I'm going to teach you how to brush your teeth, I can teach you how to pull back your skin and clean yourself. Circumcision, not only is it a religious act, but I'm hearing they keep the circumcised skin for stem cells the same way they do with the placenta. So, there's a whole lot of stuff going on. If there was a book, well, it would never be finished. Sorry about that.
A never-ending story.
A land of make-believe.
Right out of Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, yes. Yes, indeed. Very good points there, though. I mean, really, really good points. And I do appreciate your perspective on it. I've also had the same sentiment about what you said about seat belts. There was a time or two when I went into, traffic court over seat belts. And I won, but it wasn't because I argued law. It was just on technicalities, certain things. But I remember when that click it or ticket campaign was being, passed around everywhere, click it or ticket, click it or ticket. And I read some legislation on that somewhere. And what I noticed about that legislation was that it did not apply to everyone equally. So in other words, it wasn't a blanket policy for everyone, but the way that bill or whatever you want to call it was written, it kind of seemed like it could cover everybody, but it never really definitely said that it did. So I picked up on that. And when I actually was in the traffic court for those those are some other things. The technicalities, they got me out of it. But as a side note, I was I wasn't having a conversation, but I was just saying things to the clerk as I was on my way out and processing out. And I mentioned something about that click of the ticket campaign. And the clerk said something interesting and said, that's not a law. That's an internal, what do they call that? An internal, what's that word I'm looking for? It's something that applies internally to different departments. But it's something short. She said something short. I can't recall what it is. But it did, from what the clerk mentioned, it did not apply to everybody, especially those who did not work in government offices. If you worked outside of government offices, that had nothing to do with you. And that's when I said, oh, okay. And I just kept my mouth shut and kept it moving. But, it seems that those particular, what they call internal memos, or whatever they are, they were not written for the public at large. They were not. I just haven't had a chance to really go back and research into it and pull out the guts of it and say, here it is. Here it is. Yeah.
It was like a memorandum.
Yes. That's it. Yes. Yes. An internal memorandum. Yes. Because.
No, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was hearing part of what you said, and a certain word popped out, begins with a P and ends with an Y. Policy. Policy. Who generates policies? Companies generate policies for whom? For their employees. Governments are supposed to exist and operate on laws. Laws are not policies. Policies are not laws. Policies pertain to companies and their employees. Laws are supposed to govern everyone. So now, I think you were saying something about seatbelt. I think that's what you were saying. Seatbelt. And I want to say for Joyce, it's all about choice. See, because they have a way of saying, well, your compliance is your acquiescence and your decision to do what we say. It's only when we stop complying that we make the statement that we don't agree, that this is not for me. Remember, nurses and CNAs that had these jobs in these hospitals, they were forced to take these jobs if they wanted to continue in those capacities. So what did they do? They made a choice. They made a choice. They chose. That's how the government would play it if ever it was taken to court. Well, they chose. And there was something I had seen some years ago in traffic stops, okay? When you cooperate, you're choosing to comply, to be complicit. So that's an agreement. I have, in my particular case, where I was arrested inside the credit union, but they charged me with resisting arrest outside the credit union at the cruiser. Well, I have Supreme Court, I have state cases that says the completed arrest, once it occurs, and that's with them showing their authority, handcuffing me or handcuffing me, and me complying with that, that completes the arrest. So anything subsequent to that cannot be resisting. So the charge was an impossibility on its face, okay? But they went with it. Always research. If they charge you with anything, they give you a ticket for a seatbelt, read the actual law, if you will, and you may very well find, well, this doesn't say everyone has to wear a seatbelt. Otherwise, law enforcement, the one that just gave you a ticket, he should get a ticket as well. But he won't, but it doesn't apply to everyone. And with that, I yield.
Well, one other thing I want to point back to, for all of us to remember this, keep this in our minds, is that all of this hodgepodge, these tentacles, if you will, these tendrils, if we want to call them that as well, they're into everything. They're connected to, let's say, one mass. But these arms, these tentacles, these arms, tendrils, they flare out. And they come across different things. Jellyfish have tendrils. Octopus and squid have tentacles. And that's what they do. They come out and they get wrapped up into all different other things. They can wrap around things. Once we realize that the brain, the body, the mass, not the arm, is where everything is connected to and coming from, then what we realize is that that brain, that mechanism, that body, that mass is what's controlling everything, but then the question is, how is it controlling everything that's not connected to it, that it's wrapping itself around and saying that it has the right to do this? Well, somehow, some way, as was stated earlier and in the earlier podcast, there was a medium that allowed this to take place and continue on as though this was the only game in town. This is all we ever heard, all we ever knew, all that we were ever going to hear, is that this controls this and everything around you, and you're in its environment because it constructed everything. Look at all of the things that have been constructed. Everything that's been written down has described to a T what its area is and what it does and how it does everything. Of course, with the consent of those who want to be governed under that, who may look at some certain things and say, well, it seems as though I have to do this. And if I don't do this, then there's going to be some type of consequences that are going to come at me because I just decided I wasn't going to. But remember, there is a centralized system, which that most certainly is, and then there is a decentralized system, which does protect and maintain your privacy, your anonymity, your status as an individual, and sovereign over your own affairs pertaining to you, your body, your mind, your thoughts, intellectual property, giving you chain of title and custody. And this, and I'll say this, was mentioned by the administration, that this is what was happening. They used a different term. They said we're going to drain it. What do they mean by that? We're going to dismantle it to the point where it's going to take on a new form, and you're going to have a real choice if you understand what we're doing here. And yet, it's not going to look good because all of us have ever only recognized this one thing as the only game in town, and now it appears that someone's taking it away from us, even though it's a thing that kicks us in our back and steps on our necks on purpose. But we don't want it to go anywhere because what will we do without it? See the relationship there? The thing that's been mentioned is that this is the only thing you got. And they're going to take it. Just like in head of state, Chris Rock was running for president. This other guy was saying, hey, listen, I'm your last chance. I'm a war hero, and I'm Sharon Stone's cousin. You vote for me. I'm your last chance. But Chris Rock was the odd one out. No one had ever done what he did in the movie, in that position in that movie. No one had ever done that. Heck, man, run for president? What? And he came out there, with all of the stuff, the gear, hip hop this and blah 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 and all of this. Wow, this is really different. We like this. But there was a choice between the two. So, moving forward, understand, our think tanks are not just for private thought only, although that's incorporated. But, like I said, sometimes we don't know. We don't have the answer, but sometimes we put the cards on the table and we come up with one. That's why it's important for us not to just think in a think tank, but to express the thoughts that we want to share with the rest of the minds. And with that being said, we all come up with a solution. We all have a puzzle piece. We all begin to fit these pieces together. But if we don't say, I have this piece right here, then nobody else will know that, okay, we got pieces that can fit with that. It's important that we express ourselves. It really is. It's not just cliche. Remember these two terms, centralized, banker-controlled, government controlled and overreach in some ways. I'm being a little facetious when I say that. And then there's decentralized. That's your equity. That's your privacy. That's your castle doctrine, your domain. Not eminent domain, because that don't go there.
Right.
There's now two things side by side. But ain't nobody telling you about both of them. But if you listen to the administration, they've been saying this in so many different ways. The reason why they rename things isn't just a matter of ego and, whatever. That's just what's pumped out there. But if you look at what they do and not listen to what they say, but look at what they're doing, everything is being dismantled systematically.
Mm-hmm.
It's too much.
Our eyes, right.
It got out of hand. It got out of control. It's a runaway locomotive, and they couldn't stop it.
Can't stop.
They could put other politicians in there to try to stop it, but 45-47 is not a politician. He's a world-renowned business mogul. Not that he makes the most money, because that doesn't make you a mogul. He knows how to deal internationally, and he's very well known in a lot of countries. And he can get in and talk to people about things that they would never talk to politicians about. Obama tried it. When he went to the I think it was a G7 or G20 summit, and he asked them to give value to the American dollar, and they laughed him out of the place and said, "You're funny." Because even though he had knowledge and he had some kind of understanding, he didn't have experience. And he went in there, he tried. He could be influential, but that ain't enough. He didn't have a track record of dealing internationally. He didn't have it.
Yes, but he made sure that on his way out of office, he signed for Israel to get that $3.5 billion for the next 10 years. Even after Netanyahu stood in his face, pointing the finger, oh boy, I was so angry. Obama grabbed his finger, break it. Obama sitting in a chair and Netanyahu standing over him with his finger in Obama's face. Oh, my goodness. I was livid.
Obama should have waged war on us for that assault. That's an assault. Obama needed his Uncle Bernie. That's what he needed. Remember Bernie Mac in that movie you spoke of, Brother Marcus?
Yes, indeed.
That's what Obama needed. He needed Uncle Bernie Mac.
Oh, boy. I tell you.
Well, question. Can I ask this question? Okay, that happened. That happened. How does that move us forward now? See, I'm listening to Marcus, and I'm listening for how do we move forward. Looking back is a distraction for me. How do we move forward? And what I hear Marcus saying, even though no one likes 45/47, the dismantling, everyone's upset because their system is being dismantled. It's not our system. It needs to go. Why are we so upset that he is dismantling their system. That we're confused, or I'm confused.
That's what it is.
That's what I said. Let them do what they're doing to each other, because they've been passing us all the time. It's never been a golden age for us. It's never been great for us in this country since they've been here. So why are we so upset that now they are starting to screw over themselves? But I listen, maybe we listen for different purposes, and we get out of what the podcast is saying. We all get some different opinions. But going back to Obama, been there, done that. Okay? How do we move forward? I'm going to say
a month of boycotting. A month. Every black person buy nothing. Just enough food to exist on. A month. A month. Just enough food. Don't buy anything else other than your soap and bathroom tissue and, that. A month. I see the Asians are mad at us because of the boycott, begging you to come back. Yeah, okay. Can you imagine a month of the kind of monies that's... What are we, the 9th richest nation amongst ourselves? Seems easy enough to me.
Well, I'll chime in on this, and then, Brother Ed, I'm going to yield the podcast, which rightfully is yours, over to you. I want to say this one thing. I want to reiterate this. What we have to understand here is that everything here that's happening is not this one big blanket over everything. It covers sections. You have, in these two words I say in my podcast, Xtra-Hype Connection, which is before this, you have centralized system and you have decentralized system. You're in one or the other. Most of us, all of our lives have been in the central system, the centralized system, central banking, central government, central medical care. All of that centralized is all uniform. It's all connected. It's all together like a blanket over everything. Everybody. Ask me, it's a bit socialist, but that's just neither here nor there. But it begs and vies for your information. It wants everything that it created that we're using, the name, addresses, all of this stuff is their stuff. They use it. There's data breaches that have happened everywhere, and guess what? It's our footprint. So anytime we do anything, they're watching, they're tracking, they're sharing it. It's everywhere. Now, do we still want to deal in that system? Well, if we want to go ahead and boycott, that's fine. But when we go back to buying again, we're using their stuff again. So what's the alternative? Well, in a decentralized system, we can still have our own currency, but instead of just simply boycotting and not buying, we can say, okay, we're not going to use this currency of the centralized system, but we're going to demand that they accept this decentralized currency from over here that ain't got nothing to do with none of this other stuff. No ID on it, no address, no date of birth, no social, none of this stuff connected to it. Totally private. It's pulled up out of that policy stuff. And it brings us back to where we now, were originally. We now have a choice. We now can make the decision to say, we might not like the way that you're treating us. And we're both using the centralized systems resources. But we're going to go over here and use decentralized. And if you guys decide you want to do business with us over here, then yeah, you can accept both and we'll pay you in this, but you will see that when you do business with us, you're going to want to do more business with us. Because we don't have all these imposing restrictions and aggravations that causes distress. So it's good. Yeah, I said it earlier. It's a good idea. But we got to take it further than just, well, let's not spend. Because we go back, and guess what? We go back at a higher rate because they want to punish us. Oh, you want to boycott? Fine. All right. We'll raise the prices up on them. Not from the store, but from the people who make the policies on the prices. Oh, well, yeah, they want to do that? Okay, they want to get more food? Okay, let's take all their money for the next 6 months. Let's hike the prices up to let them know that, hey, we're still in charge here. But if we have something else that they don't control, and that allows us to level the playing field and offer a better experience, then we just might see some of those who feel the same way as all of us who are getting stepped on decide that they want the same thing that we want. And I'm going to yield back there. Brother Ed, good to hear your voice. And I turn this over to you humbly, my friend.
Hey, Brother Marcus, before you go, speak on more of the benefit of decentralized in reference to them utilizing these documents and things that we tend to sign and then turning them into security to benefit them and we get no benefit from.
All right. Well, all right. Decentralized. Let's kind of deal with that. We've all lived and worked and done business in a centralized system all of our lives. Most of us have. All of our lives. Decentralized is a system that is not governed by the bankers. It's not governed by any governments. It's not governed under any foreign policies. It's not governed by any one set of demographics with an agenda and motives. It's not that. It's what we originally had here when we did business with each other. We didn't have anybody interfering in our trade, barter, sharing, and something else. I forgot the other one that Joyce said, but I loved what she said. BEST was the acronym she used for that. But it's what we had originally. But now what they've done is being that everything is moving into the digital age, they moved it right over into the digital age as well, and they've secured it and locked down on the blockchains and with smart contracts. Now, what these smart contracts are is they're very essential to the decentralized system is that when you decide to do a transaction, no, your information is not recorded with the transaction. But these smart contracts are private contracts that are not available to anyone else. They're all encrypted. I mean, encrypted like you wouldn't believe. But the smart contract is what gives you the security of your transaction. It gives you the privacy of your transaction between you and whoever you decide to do business with this decentralized system. You all have privacy and anonymity between you two. So if I'm selling you some herbs, some herbs that are really, really potent, and you are giving me some decentralized tokens for these herbs, and guess what? Only between you and myself. is that transaction recognized between us in an encrypted file buried deep within the database that's locked up on the blockchain with this new digital currency, and that's shielded from any prying eyes because it doesn't run on that system. And the smart contract keeps a record of the transaction between us so that if there's ever any discrepancy or any dispute, the contract can be pulled up to say, oh, yeah, this is what happened on this date between us and us and us, and it has to be done by both of us. Now, the benefit of that is, you know how they have those GoFundMe pages and people, they donate to GoFundMe charities and blah, 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 blah. That's centralized. Do the same thing with decentralized. You don't have to call it GoFundMe. You can call it assistance for you, helping your situation, helping you to come up. And you can take these decentralized tokens and you can use them to give value to whoever needs it. And they receive the value, and guess what? Now they can do what they need to do in that emergent situation to take care of their needs, their situations, whatever is going on. But this is the benefit, because now you don't have to go through, you don't have to report taxes. There are no taxes against this. There are no liens and levies on it. There are no interest rates to go up or down. Ain't none of that here. This is all just straight transaction, straight value to value. That's what it is. And that's what we had. And it's just been brought back.
Sounds good.
And like I said, I have mentors that have given me information that I do not regret. And this is a think tank. And I think that if our think tank were to go further into this and get involved in this, not only could we have think tanks and thoughts, but we could also add actions to our thoughts and make things more real in real time. It really gets some traction.
Okay. Okay. I don't mean to be pessimistic, but tell me this. What is the downside to it? As succinctly as you can put it.
Well, the downside is that you'll miss those April 15th deadlines. You'll miss FICA removing anything that you made. You'll miss municipal taxes on, your products and your businesses because you won't need to register. And you'll miss that. You'll miss registering anything that you do in that centralized system. Oh yeah, you'll miss all that. That's a downer. It's really a downer.
That's a downer.
Liens and levies and credit scores. Oh, you'll miss the plummet when you don't pay your bills on time. Because your credit score will definitely be eaten alive, and we'll miss that. We definitely gonna miss that. That's really gonna be sad that we won't have that anymore.
I don't even have a credit score.
And we'll miss that too. The fact that our credit score might, not even be 100. That's really depressing that we won't be able to see that anymore. The fact that people can't trace anything to us to say we know that you bought this and created this and sold this. The fact that they can't get into our privacy anymore, that just be messed up. They can't do that to us no more. What you gonna do without that?
Hell, you can't even buy a money order without them knowing who you are. A darn money order, the free money orders. I don't know if you got them in Jersey, but we got them here, PLS or PSL or something, and they're free money orders. They got to know who you are before they sell you a darn money order. Hot darn. Unbelievable. Just keeping up.
If I can throw my 2 cents about answering Ms. Joy's question about the downside, I think it will be more of a trade-off. What we're doing is we're giving convenience to the light, right? We're saying, okay, the system exists. You guys do that already. Do it for me. That's convenient, but it exposes us in all types of ways. So the alternative, like Marcus is saying, the decentralized version is a bit more involved on our part. So it's not as convenient. It's not point, click, shoot. There's a lot more involved on our parts. There's a bit more education, understanding, preparation, execution that is involved with protecting yourself in the ways that we want to here. So that's one thing that I can say would be a concrete trade-off, a downside, if you will. It's going to be not as easy as it used to be.
Well said. And anytime something is new, there has to be a brace point for being trained and initiated into that particular system. Not necessarily a downside. It's just that in your own mind, you have to get past that belief system that I can't do it, this technology, and all of those things. But there are definitely a lot of people in other countries buying land, paying for plane tickets, so many different things. And just like the sister said on Forrester's show, Sister Sada, he paid for her daughter's college tuition with decentralized
cryptocurrency, yeah.
Exactly. So that speaks volumes, because everybody know that's ever heard of anybody going to college or had to assist anybody going to college. It's a real monkey bag. It's very expensive. So for her to use that currency, and it didn't have anything to do with whatever FRN she had, that's something powerful to consider. It really is.
Yeah. That's why there's numbers on every bill.
Yeah, well, that's not even United States money as we know. Even that is something to consider, going back to Yahoo putting his finger in Obama's face that Marcus spoke to. He wouldn't do that to Trump. I think he's already tried to talk down to Trump one time, and Trump sent a sailor. But Obama's always tried to be cordial and a diplomat.
Yeah.
But that same individual didn't spend too much time in the White House when Obama was in office, and the same thing when Biden was in office. But there's a lot of things that go on behind the veil. And to have decentralized currency is the way, like Marcus said, we used to live. Let's not forget. Chocolate City people say Cadillac because the banksters told the United States government they were bankrupt. Banks never made the money. Banks shut down to keep people's money that's in the bank. So that's another reason why we were able to save Cadillac, just because we weren't allowed to have our money in the banks. And most of us probably didn't want it anyway because of all the shiftiness and trikiness of those same individuals. There's a lot of people on these apps now talking about take all your money out of the banks, because when that part of the United States system plummets, if your money's in the bank, it's no longer your. I mean, if you read some of those contracts anyway, when you get a bank account, you're basically donating your money to that system.
You know, Obama signed, since we're way back on Obama, he signed that there will be no more need for a bailout of the banks. There will now be a bail-in of the banks. And so the banks, since Obama signed it into law, when they get doing bad and they're on the precipice of collapse, they can go into your savings, your checking, your deposit, the boxes, and all that you have, they can convert it for their own use and turn you from a depositor into an investor. And remember, the difference between one who is a saver as a depositor and an investor, investments are always subject to you losing your investments. So that bullcrap about the $250,000 FDIC insurance, well, once you become an investor, because they've taken your money, according to Obama's signature, you're no longer a depositor, so you have no depositor insurance. So if we have to talk about Obama at this late stage in the game, let's keep that in mind. Because that's what he did.
A lot of things that can be kept in mind in reference to Obama, anybody who sits in that chair, because again, there is a hand up their back, regardless if we see it or not. But we're basically talking about a remedy. Decentralized. A lot of people don't know what's going on. The United States is being disbanded because their lease is up. And we've been so conditioned to believe the system that has been shared with us by the people that are part of the system and created the system, that we don't do research to see what's really going on, or where there's remedies at, just like back in the day, everybody talked about public and private. It's in the Bible. You know, it's not about God or a deity. It's just about information in reference to how they took an ancient book, tweaked it for their benefit. But if you would read the book, the information is still there. If you look at that book and then look at society and look at what's going on, and even check out the UCCs, again, I would suggest it. Maxims of equity. There are maxims of equity. Everything is commercial by nature. Therefore, if you look at those maxims and you put those maxims in Google or AI, as everybody's using today, gives me a clearer understanding of what this particular maxim means and how could I use it personally. There's so many things that can be done besides saying this system is what it is and things like that. But it's our responsibility to manifest our own destiny. Even if you look back to what happened in the 1800s, in reference to the Civil War, Emancipation Proclamation, as they threw it out there. But look what happened. They came to the South and took the houses of a lot of the land barons of the South, and they were melanated people. And this is another reason why this day a lot of people are looking back through those archival records to find out who their great-great-grandparents are, and claiming those land patents if they were any in their names, but overall, if they were classified Choctaw, Yamasee, or whatever, claiming that. And this is another way to get your right just due and separate yourself as the United States plumbers anyway. And there's a lot of remedies out there for the seeker. There's a lot of ways to make money. Like even Melvin spoke on that. I mean, yeah, maybe nobody wants to sit on the corner and sell water tax-free, no taxable liability because it's not registered or mentioned. I don't think an IRS worker is going to walk up on somebody and harass the hell out of them. But anybody who's nasty, I don't know if you remember when they went in that Oval Office for the ritual. I think Carter, Clinton, Baby Bush went in the office and they did what they did, but the main person who wasn't smiling on the way out was Obama. So who knows what they do when they do what they're doing. But he also said, and again, I was never a favorite. He was never one of my favorite people. None of them really are, but I'm just emphasizing on the fact that he clearly said that American people need to create business. Why? Because that separates that Social Security number and that birth certificate in all caps from your usury in conducting commercial business in the confines of the planet, not just in the United States or in the Americas. So there's antidotes and remedies all the time. All the time. And I yield. Marcus, you were supposed to be speaking on, well, you chose to, how they securitize, but I guess maybe that's not exactly important at this time. So I appreciate you. You know, anytime you sign, you know, how they create securities out of the documents that we sign to get houses, cars, credit cards, bank accounts, paying tickets, you know.
Oh, yeah. Our signature. It's like, okay, check this out, everybody. And I hate to use this example, but the story was told that back in the day, in the 70s, when George Foreman was the heavyweight champ of the world, went to go meet up with Don King. At any rate, here's an example of securitization, and it's pretty much done the same way. Don's in there talking to George about what's going to be what and what he's thinking of, what he's picturing, all this stuff, right? Sounds all good, right? So he puts this piece of paper and he puts it in front of George, and on the top it says contract. But there ain't nothing, it's blank. And at the very last page, there's an X for a signature and a date. Don says, hey, George, go ahead and sign this contract, man. And George looks at it, he says, there ain't nothing on this contract. He said, George, baby, trust me. I'm gonna fill in the rest of the stuff later on. We just talked about everything that I was telling you about. I'm gonna put all that in there. But I just need you to go ahead and sign this thing.
Yeah.
George went on ahead and signed it, and Don took him for everything. That's how they securitize, because it's like signing a blank check. You got a check that you took out of your checkbook. You put your signature at the bottom and gave it to somebody and said, here, you fill in the rest. That's how they securitize everything that we do, because they get our signature on it, and they don't hand us blank stuff, but they hand us stuff that's in volumes. Who's going to read 50 pages of stuff that you can't even define with a regular dictionary? Right. They know this stuff. They give us and they're hoping that we don't sit up here and ask them, what does this mean? Sit down and explain this to me. Break this down for me right here. How does this go with this? They're like, look, Big Don King, we George Foreman. Hey, look, baby, I got you. Everything I just told you, that's what all this right here say. Just sign right there, okay? See that? And that one too. Yeah, right there. And that one too. And what do? That signature gives them access to value. Because what's on there? Our social, which is what? A key to receiving fractional created money value from our Treasury Department and other things. They take these securitized instruments that have our signature on them, which are just like signed checks, because they're dealing with value and money and assets, and they give them over to these banking institutions who then take them over to the Federal Reserve, which they call a Fed window, which is nothing but somebody who sits there, accepts these documents, and then gives out value in the form of digits in an account. That's how everything is securitized with our signature. It goes through so many different parties, ends up at someone that can actually issue payments on these documents, because these documents are pretty much like what you would call loans, so to speak. So when we get a loan for a car, that dealership ain't loaning us nothing. The bank didn't loan us nothing. They took the documents that we filled out and signed, took it in the back somewhere. We didn't see what they did with it. They faxed it over to somebody or scanned it and emailed it. And guess what? They sat there for about 20, 30 minutes waiting for these people to get back to them with, okay, here's the money for this and this and this and this, blah, blah, blah. They got funding for it and came back out and told us, okay, you got approved for a loan. That's pretty much how it goes. Wow. In centralized systems where there is debt, there is created debt, not real debt. You already got the value. They took the value and then gave you back a paper that says you owe this. Now, let me ask you a question. If I wrote a blank check, put my signature on it, gave it to somebody and said, you fill in the rest, they took it to the bank, got the money from the bank, and then came back to me and said, okay, here's your loan here's your loan agreement right here. You owe this much in payments. But they already got the money. How does that work? Right. Right. Right.
Unreal. Lack of knowledge.
That's how it's been played since 1930s in the land of make-believe. That's when the land of make-believe basically started. Because again, that Civil War and emancipation, if you look up the word emancipate, it means to take from one and give to the other. The executive office of the CEO of the United States Corporation. All of your assets are in their hands and you. We have always been the creditors. Lawfully, they can't even talk to us when we go into court. Why? Because they're commercial and we're organic. How can it be the state of New York or whatever against an individual when the state of New York is commercial? Does it have hands and feet? Does it have a heart that beats? Can I get a take that, brother?
Take that. Take that. Take that. Take that. Yes, yes, indeed. Take that. Take that.
So your best bet is anytime they tell you to sign your name, you say, "Wait, I'll bring it back. I gotta read it." I have so many of those things here.
You could even write over your name that you reserve all your rights. Somebody's getting ready to speak. I yield.
No, go, bro.
No, that's all I wanted to emphasize on. If you write on that same document that you maintain and reserve all your rights, there's really nothing that they can do with it. But there is something that I heard that brother Yusuf L talk about as far as securitizing the back of that sheet of paper, that application. But just like what Marcus said, sometimes they give you just 20 pieces of paper there. So you're supposed to do that on the back of each and every one of them. You know, it's crazy. It really is, but I yield. Go ahead, brother. You have the floor.
Well, when it comes to signature and authorized rep by Geoffrey Jones, AR UCC 1-308. Now, does it really work? Well, I haven't had a problem, but in what venue do you use it? See, in the courts, it's a valid signature, but will it be treated favorably, or will you be looked at as one of those sovereign citizens, which is oxymoronic, because a sovereign is not a citizen, and a citizen is not a sovereign. Okay, so yeah, we can sign our names like that because we're saying by Geoffrey Jones, well, if you're looking upon me as this corporate person with an all-caps name, well, I'm signing for that person. And it's like your representative in court. The lawyer is not you, he represents you. So he doesn't get in trouble for anything that you do or say that he repeats in your behalf. And with that, I want to be corrected if I'm saying something wrong, so I yield.
Well, you're not saying anything wrong at all. But the game that's being played that's part of that centralized system. And what I can say about this, and just having gained more knowledge and understanding about it, is those rules were not made for equitable or transactions between regular people. Okay, we're on our land, and we're trading stuff. Whatever it is, we trade direct, or if we use a medium or multiple things, Okay, we're trading with each other. We ain't got all these rules here about how this has to be written up on a bill and, the count has to be this and the weight. And we ain't doing all of that. We're just saying, okay, look, I got some of these and you got some of those, but here we're going to use seeds. So I'm going to give you some seeds for asparagus seeds, or tomato seeds, or cucumber seeds, right? And you give me back, some bread, or whatever it may be, right? And I take that and you take that, and we both are happy with what we got. I got grains, you got seeds to grow stuff. So now you can continue to grow the stuff that you use to make like breads and other things that people want, and I can come give you more seeds so that you can keep this going and start planting all over the other place, and then everybody's taken care of. That's equity. That's decentralized. We're not worried about all this other jargon that's going on. We're just going ahead getting things done, transaction right here. But now when you're dealing with all of this stuff on the merchants, the high seas, the laws over there, that's where all those codes came from. They were never supposed to be over here on land. Those were codes for the sea. When they got the land, those codes didn't apply to the inhabitants in the land. They still applied to the merchants. Even if they came from sea onto land, they still carried those rules with them because they were identified as merchants subject to merchant law. So you're not saying anything wrong, bro. Everything you're saying is correct. It's just that this land of make-believe and the way they flipped everything, they got us, first of all, coming out of the womb, but then they got us with the land and the water because, as we all know, there's more water than there is land on this globe right now. And they're treating the land as ships in dock. In other words, the whole North American continent is considered to be a seafaring vessel because it's surrounded by water, but it's just sitting in a dock. It's not sailing nowhere, but it's still to them, it's still a ship. So it's subject to what? Commercial law, merchant law. because what? It's on the high seas. This is the like, this is the extra stuff that they threw in there. Like, we'll consider all these continents vessels, sea vessels, surrounded by water. That way, what can we do? We can board them. Zip codes? Anyone? Sectioning off pieces of continents, zip codes, all this other nonsense going on. I hope it makes more sense now as to what we're experiencing. And then all of that is centralized. All of that is centralized. All of it. But the decentralized is what it was before that overlay came on and sat over us. That's what we got back now. The playing field is evened out now. It's even. We really don't have to worry about it. We just have to go through with it. We have to, in other words, like Flofokuz is saying, it takes a bit more on our part now because everything is not done for us because this is not a system that, is got its own agenda and motive and intentions for doing things the way that they've been always done. This is for the people to say, what is it that you want? You want your republic? You want your equity? You want your privacy? You want your castle doctrine? You want your rights to this and that and this and that? Then it's going to take you to go ahead and move through on it. Well, we don't know what we can buy with it. Well, then make something to buy with it. Well, I don't know what to make. Well, people call you up and get you on the phone and you give them, some good, good information that helps them out. Well, yeah. Tell them, hey, my time is worth this many tokens. Decentralized. Okay, I'll send you some. Well, how do I pay you in these tokens? I'm glad you asked. Let me point you and show you the way. Well, I don't know. I got all these vegetables here, and I can't get anybody to buy them at the market because they say that I got to be registered and blah 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 and this and it's all good stuff. Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you let me buy them with these tokens right here? Well, how do I accept those? Glad you asked. Come here. Stay with me for a minute. Let me show you how to start. Pretty soon, you got everything that you need, and then some. And everybody's thriving. Remember, centralized, decentralized. Next time we come back next Friday, let's unpack that a little bit more, people. We're a think tank. So let's go ahead and use our thoughts. We're all great minds on here. Let's do that. And I'm going to yield on that.
Yeah, just strive to look at things differently and do a little bit of due diligence again. There's a lot of information on YouTube. There's so many things that you could put in Google in reference to questions. And again, if you scroll down to the bottom of that sheet, it'll tell you how many pages of information that it has. So it's not just about the first sheet. And if you have those smartphones, there's a lot of these phones that will read to you. You just have to click for whatever comes up from your inquiry. And they do have Siri. There's just so many things. And of course, a lot of us are fortunate enough to have some kind of assistance around us, to assist us with these things. But the beautiful thing about it is there's a button that you could press on Google, DuckDuckGo, whatever the case may be, and you don't have to type it. You could speak it. But even before you do that, ask your own inner being, what experience would I like to have? and your emotional body or your inner being can take liberty to answer the question. Because these are very miraculous and opportunistic times. There's so many changes that's taking place. There's no telling how things are going to look 2027, just like what Joffrey says. They're going to take a percentage of everybody's Social Security. That's even a trust to consider. There might be ways, and I don't know them, even in how to claim more benefits from that number, because that number is assigned to you. But going back to your personality, the information that you have, there is some value there because there's always somebody asking a question and needs an answer. Decentralization takes you out of the system. Public and private. Everything is, it seems so interesting that everything is basically dual in nature and by nature. You got a left hand, you got a right hand, you got a left leg, you got a right leg. They say never let your right hand know what your left hand's doing. There's so many people that live and govern themselves that way. That's another reason why they're successful. Because you need to know who's who and who you're allowing to get close to. But overall, these are very opportunistic times. And as we share, may we grow and prosper. But let's stay on the positive side of our intent, because we already know what the negative is. Letting things stay business as usual. It's just that simple. Thanks, good brother. Both of you. Full focus, Xtra-Hype Connection. Anybody have anything they want to say? I want to play this beautiful song that I used to like hearing.
Oh yeah, Brother Ed.
Yes.
One of the examples I wanted to give now, real quick. A lot of things that I've heard, and they've been concerns of mine too, and I had to really wrap my head around it. Like things that are needed. We're used to spending what we spend and using what we use, and I get it. And sometimes we figure, well, how are we supposed to compete with this? How are we supposed to be able to do this? And so I said to myself, what could it be that we could do? And just like I said earlier, lemonade stands. What if you weren't collecting dollars? What if you were collecting something else? Or fundraising campaigns. What if you weren't using dollars? What if you were using something else?
Car wash. I know a car wash, brother.
Car wash. What if you weren't accepting dollars for that? Or basically, okay, you want us to wash your car? Okay, you're going to pay us this amount in dollars, but if you use these tokens right here, you'll only pay this price. I'm just saying. And with that, I'm going to land, brother, so you can go ahead and play that beautiful song of yours. Thank you.
Hey, thank us, indeed. I know the multitude definitely has a lot to consider. Reference to what you've been sharing, and only getting gooder. We'll play the song now.